You turn a corner in Seoul. 1 second ago, 8-lane traffic, glass towers, delivery bikes, full Pali-Pali. Now, silence, stone walls, tiled rooftops, a path that curves instead of running straight, the smell of old wood, and something that cities are not supposed to smell like anymore. You check your phone. You are 11 minutes from Bukchon Palace, 4 minutes from a Michelin-starred restaurant, 2 minutes from a subway entrance that will take you anywhere in Seoul in 20 minutes. And yet, time is moving differently here. Not slower exactly, just differently. Like the city agreed, in this one place, to run a different operating system. This is K-Logic Field Test. And today, we decode the Bukchon Protocol. Bukchon should not exist. By every logic of modern urban development, land value, density optimization, economic efficiency, the 900 Hanok structures occupying prime real estate between Bukchon Palace and Cheongdeokgung Palace in the center of Seoul should have been demolished decades ago. Compare what happened to equivalent neighborhoods in other rapidly developing Asian cities. Tokyo's Shitamachi, the traditional low-rise neighborhoods that once characterized much of the city, was almost entirely replaced by post-war reconstruction and subsequent development. Singapore's Chinatown and shophouse districts survived largely through aggressive heritage tourism policy rather than organic preservation. Hong Kong's traditional Tong Lau neighborhoods have been steadily disappearing under development pressure for 60 years. Seoul demolished vast swaths of its traditional urban fabric during the compressed development of the 1970s through 1990s. The apartment towers that replaced the alley neighborhoods of Reply in 1988 stand as evidence of how completely Korean development could erase what came before when efficiency required it. Bukchon survived not because Seoul forgot to demolish it. It survived because Seoul made a specific decision, a culturally significant, economically counterintuitive, and structurally revealing decision to preserve it. That decision is the field test. Why would one of the world's most Pali-Pali cities deliberately maintain a neighborhood that cannot run at Pali-Pali speed? Why would a society that demolished its alley neighborhoods to build apartment towers preserve 900 traditional houses in its most valuable urban real estate? The answer is not tourism, though tourism followed. The answer is not heritage policy, though policy supported it. The answer is the same pattern K-Logic keeps finding in Korean culture. The most demanding social systems tend to produce, over time, the most precisely engineered mechanisms for relief from their own demands. Bukchon is the city-scale version of the Jimjilbang uniform, the Pojangmaka orange light, the Hanok's low door. It is Seoul's counterweight, preserved at the center of the city, where its presence is impossible to ignore, because the city understood that the operating system it was running at full speed everywhere else needed a place where it ran differently. The Bukchon Protocol runs two primary functions that explain why the preservation decision was made and why it has been maintained despite continuous development pressure. Protocol 1. The architectural deceleration at urban scale. In our Hanok Stay analysis, we decoded the individual Hanok as a deceleration machine, a building whose specific physical properties produce a physiological and psychological state that is the precise opposite of Pali-Pali urgency. Bukchon scales this function to the neighborhood level. The specific urban design of Bukchon, the narrow lanes that cannot accommodate cars at speed, the stone surfaces that produce a specific acoustic environment, the curved paths that prevent the visual forward momentum of the straight street, the consistent building height that blocks the vertical ambition of the tower, creates a deceleration field. An area of the city where the physical infrastructure prevents the operating system from running at its normal speed. Watch what happens to visitors entering Bukchon from the surrounding city. The pace changes within 30 seconds. Not because people decide to slow down, because the physical environment removes the stimuli that maintain urban pace. The wide pavement disappears. The traffic noise diminishes. The visual field narrows from the open boulevard to the contained lane. The body adjusts to the environment it is moving through. This is not atmosphere. This is urban engineering, the application of specific physical design principles to produce a specific physiological state in the people moving through the space. The Western visitor experiences this as charm. The Korean resident experiences it as relief. The specific Korean emotional response to a space that temporarily removes the demands of the operating system they run everywhere else. Protocol 2. The collective memory anchor. Bukchon is not just a deceleration space. It is a memory infrastructure, a physical anchor for the collective memory of what Korean urban life was before the compressed development of the 20th century transformed it. This function is specifically Korean in a way that makes Bukchon different from Western heritage preservation. Western heritage preservation tends to preserve the exceptional, the grand palace, the significant monument, the architectural masterpiece. The preservation logic is aesthetic and historical. This thing is beautiful and important and should be saved. Korean preservation of Bukchon is different. The Hanok of Bukchon are not exceptional architecture. They are ordinary, the standard residential architecture of the Joseon period, the kind of housing that most urban Koreans of that era lived in. What is being preserved is not the exceptional but the ordinary, the specific texture of everyday life that the compressed development erased everywhere else. This is Han-made urban. The preservation of Bukchon is the city's refusal to allow the complete erasure of what came before. The insistence that the compressed development that produced modern Seoul did not cost nothing, that what was lost had value, that the people who lived in this specific way deserve to have that way of living witnessed and honored rather than demolished and forgotten. The tourist who photographs the Bukchon rooftops is not just capturing a pretty image. They are receiving a transmission, the specific quality of a social and physical architecture that existed, that was mostly demolished, and that Seoul decided to preserve precisely because allowing its complete disappearance would have been a form of Han that the city was not willing to accept. If this field test is showing you the invisible decisions inside Korean urban space, subscribe to K-Logic. The most important architecture is the kind that does something invisible, and Seoul built more of it than you know. The decision to preserve Bukchon reveals something important about how Korean society relates to its own speed. Korean development culture is not unaware of what it costs. The compressed industrialization that transformed Korea from a war-devastated country to a global economy within 2 generations was not achieved without loss. And Korean culture has never fully pretended otherwise. The Han that runs underneath Korean social life, the underdog algorithm that honors those who are on the wrong side of the system's verdict, the Reply 1988 nostalgia for the alley neighborhoods that the apartment towers replaced. All of these are evidence of a society that knows, at a deep cultural level, what the speed extracted. Bukchon is the urban form of that knowledge. It is Seoul saying, we know what we demolished. We know what it cost. And we will preserve this, not as a museum, not as a tourist attraction, but as evidence, as a witness, as the physical proof that the thing that was mostly lost was real, had value, and deserves to be seen. This is a specifically Korean relationship with urban heritage that most Western cities have not developed. The preservation not of the exceptional, but of the ordinary, not of the monument, but of the texture of daily life, not of what was grand, but of what was human. And it produces something that most megacities cannot produce. A place within the city where the city's own speed is visibly, physically, architecturally suspended. Not as escape, as memory, as the city's ongoing acknowledgement that what it is running at full speed is not the only thing it has ever been. Every city makes choices about what to keep. Most cities keep the exceptional, the monuments, the landmarks, the architectural achievements that justify the label of heritage. The ordinary is demolished because the ordinary is always replaceable, always improvable, always less efficient than what comes next. Seoul made a different choice in Bukchon. It kept the ordinary, the residential lanes, the domestic scale, the curved paths and stone walls and tiled rooftops of people who were not exceptional, who did not produce monuments, who simply lived in this specific way in this specific place. And in keeping it, in maintaining it against continuous development pressure, in accepting the economic inefficiency of 900 Hanok occupying some of Seoul's most valuable land, Seoul made a statement that most megacities have not been able to make. We remember what we were before we became what we are, and we believe it is worth keeping visible. For the modern traveler who turns that corner in Seoul, who steps from the 8-lane traffic into the stone-paved silence of Bukchon, the K-Logic read transforms the experience entirely. You are not visiting a heritage site. You are standing inside a decision. A decision that one of the world's fastest cities made, to preserve, at its center, a place where its own speed cannot follow. Not as nostalgia, as honesty. If the Bukchon Protocol decoded something you felt in that village, hit like and subscribe to K-Logic. Because the most important urban decisions are the ones that look like preservation but are actually resistance. And Seoul made more of them than you know. K-Logic field test complete. The blueprint was always visible. You just needed to turn the right corner to find it.